Greetings. I'm Steve Cook, Superintendent of Ben Lapine Schools. It's August 9th, and here's your summary for our board meeting, our business boarding meeting for the month of August. We got out at about 7:30. It was actually a really short agenda, but we had a lot of really in-depth items to go through. First thing of note is that the board took action to approve Resolution 1937, which is the resolution that provides the authority from the board for us to go put the ballot language on the November election, and gives that language very precise, gives the very precise language we have to have for that. That authority resides with the board, and so we can't do that without the board. They approved that 4-0, and so that means, folks, that the bond election will be happening this November, in which we ask our community to support about a $250 million bond request to renovate and reconstruct Bend High School, among with many other much needed facility upgrades. Second thing the board approved was the Ben Lapine Schools Online curriculum adoption. That, if you recall, was procedurally something we had to go back and do so that we were in compliance with our Division 22 assurances, expectations from the Department of Education. It's not any new curriculum. It's the curriculum that's already in place. That was purchased and put into place during the pandemic, so this was mostly a procedural effect. This third thing that they talked about and took action on was the conversation that actually came out of the executive session. Two things that they wanted to discuss. The first one was a student issue, a student discipline issue, in which they are not going to share and did not share any details about that to protect the student's right to privacy under FERPA laws. And so what they did take action on was to support the administrative process on how that situation was dealt with, which essentially affirms the decision that was taken at the building level, all the way up through the appeal process, all the way to the district's designee, which is the last status that we would handle it, and then the board has authority over that. They affirmed that in favor of the district's decision, but they also gave us a request to do a presentation on how we were going to handle student discipline and how we manage that, and how do we look to seek restoration when a student violates a rule or does something that is out of accordance with our behavior policies and expectations, and how we handle progressive discipline when those actions happen, and then how do we do restorative practices and how we restore that student back into relationship with the students that they're in community with in their schools. And so we'll be presenting that to the board in probably 90 days. The second thing they asked us to do was to review the number of days of suspension in that particular student's incidents. And that's pretty standard as a set of guidance from the board in an appeal process. And then we went into reports. And, we had our report section started with another potential curriculum adoption. And this was a pretty in-depth presentation on supplemental health curriculum. You may or may not know that the standards for our health curricula have changed and modified over the last 18 to 24 months. And we did a lot of work in our partnership with Deschutes County in our Healthy Schools project. Dr. Amy Snyder partnered with Dean Richards, our secondary director of curriculum, and secondary schools, did work with our health teachers to determine what's the most appropriate material that we would have to get to be able to address these changed standards that have come up recently. The health teachers did a great job of analyzing that and meeting the expectations of the law, of the expectations of the standards, and of our own policies. And so they did a presentation tonight on those materials, and we're actually pushing those out tonight, or actually probably tomorrow, for public review and comment on those materials. We expect to get some, and we're hopeful for that. So we'll bring that back potentially and the public comment and review next month for consideration for our board to consider adoption of those materials. And if the board does approve those, we would look to get those into our health teachers' hands, along with training on how best to do use the materials to teach those skills in our health classes, K through 12. The second report we had tonight was the longest report of the night, and arguably the main event of the night, which was an update on our safety practices across the district. Specifically tonight, we focused on the physical safety aspect of how we maintain safety and security in our schools. Julianne Rettman and along with Scott Bojanowski kind of co-facilitated that conversation and talked about how we manage and what we're doing to ensure that physical safety is at the forefront of everything we do in our schools. A lot of great questions, long presentation. Please don't hesitate to follow up and watch that online if you're interested. A lot of great material there as we think about kind of bringing, I don't know if I want to say a normal school into place, but at least one less impacted by conversations that would take away from the primary focus of safety in our schools to a more broader focus. Definitely lots to talk about there, and we are committed to engaging in our community about that conversation as well. A couple of policies that the board adopted tonight. One policy the board adopted, and then some from administrative perspective. The policy that the board adopted tonight was, I've lost it. There it is, JC-BP, school attendance in boundary areas. We received no comments from that presentation last month. That policy simply allows us to make mid enrollment boundary changes as necessary if enrollment ebbs and flows in our schools. Administrative policies and regulations that we're pushing out for this month. Look for these three coming your way soon. The first one is EBBA, which is about first aid. The second one is EBBC, which is about life-supporting emergency care. And the third one is JHCD, administration of medications. And all three of those policies have to do with changes in guidance that came down from OHA, which is specific to how the drug Narcan is going to be accessible in our schools in case of opioid overdose would happen at one of our schools. There's a very serious approach that the state has taken an active kind of position on, and that we train now to what it would look like to administer that drug in an event that could be life-saving. And so those policies are going to be modified or at least out for consideration as we consider that. And then two policies that were out for review that received no comment are coming back for adoption for administrative policies, and that is IKA-AR, grades and credits policy, which, as you recall, we put a pause on the mandatory 50% floor on the grading policy through feedback and work with our teachers and our union to give this 1 year a chance for people to get up to speed and get trained on what it looks like to be in accordance with our equitable grading practices. The second policy that is coming back is a simple one on attendance areas and in-district transfers. And that's it. Superintendent's report was simple. I just talked about all the events that are coming up in the near future to get schools back in session. We've got new teachers coming back on. We've got a welcome back. We've got all kinds of training. We have reunification training for staff for safety considerations. We have leading equitable schools for our administrators. We're doing some training with our office managers. It's just a busy time right now. And so that was my superintendent's report. I'll do one shout out, and I've got that right here. We had one of our students. She's currently a student. We're seriously excited to celebrate Isabel Elias Medina. She's going to be a freshman at Caldera High School. She was at High Desert Middle School last year as an 8th grader. Today, August 9th, is Indigenous Peoples Day, and it just so happens that Isabel wrote a poem titled Caminando Veo, which translates to Walking I See. And that received state recognition from the Oregon Poetry Association, and we're super excited to celebrate her, to celebrate this opportunity to draw attention to the fantastic work that our students are doing, and the fact that her poetry speaks to Indigenous people, and the fact that it's recognized today is awesome. So we're excited to share that. Congratulations, Isabel. We're proud of you. All right. And a quick a quick chair update, just a celebration from Chair Barnes Delakia, celebrating our partnership with both Ben's Parks and Rec and Little League here in our community, and the work that they do to support our youth in this community, and how proud we are to be a partner with them. And just a really positive note to hear from her and in that celebration. All right, that's it for our update. August 9th, pretty good meeting. A lot of heavy topics, but a lot of great things going today. And we're excited to share it with you. Take care, be safe. School's almost ready. Get ready, it's coming. Thanks.